Hello, my name is Luke Smith, and I'm an enterprise architect here at Archeon. Today, you will learn how to configure Archeon to replicate from an Oracle database to YugaByte database with both snapshot and full CDC replication. There's a few things we need to do to prepare the environment to get it ready for replication. So the first thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to install Java 8. I've already installed Java 8, and then we need to set our Java home uh, environment variable. So let me go ahead and do that real quick. There we go. Then we need to actually download a few files or upload a few files to the server, however you're getting them there. We need a recent copy or the the latest version of Archeon software. We'll need a valid Archeon license file. And then for this specific situation, configuration, we're going to need an Oracle JDBC library file. All right, and those need to be put on the server. Once we have all those folders on the server, we should be ready to get started. Just to note, I do have all my files underneath my replicant user's home directory, underneath a folder called Archeon. It doesn't really matter where you place these files as long as whatever replicant user you're using has access to execute the Archeon binaries and then read the configuration files. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to unzip our replicant software, or our replicant zip file, I should say, on compress. All right, and then what we need to do is we need to move our replicant license into our replicant home directory. And then we need to move our OJDBC driver into the replicant home directory into the lib folder, or the library folder. All right. Now that we have those in there, we're pretty much ready to use the application. What I like to do after that is I actually like to export my path just so that I can run replicant from anywhere. And I can also check, hey, look, does something like version work? And if it exits to 0, I know it's working. Everything's good to go here. So at least from that point of view. The next thing up is the configuration. Okay, so the configuration. We're going to actually cover some configuration files, but not all of them because they're just entirely too many. Just know that we have filters. We have mappers. We're going to cover both of those. And then we also have connection files along with many other different types of files to be able to configure replication from source to target. All these are covered in our documentation on our website, so I'll leave a link in the description below the video so you can get to those. Real quick, though, I'll just go through a couple files. So, for instance, we have some some connection files. So, if we were to cap maybe an Oracle, since that's going to be our source, you can see we ask for simple, we tell it, hey, look, we're using an Oracle database. We have a host, we have a port. For Oracle, we have a service name, and then a username and password. We also have the ability to do SSL as well. So if you're, definitely highly recommend some SSL, and that's also in some of these as well. So, or excuse me, the SSL configuration can be found in the documentation as well, and you can even see it here, just a template. So we have templates for pretty much anything, any source target that we have. You can see template files for pretty much any of them. So, and with documentation, or I would say notes inside of those configuration files. Okay, so to speed things up, I actually have already pre-filled out these files. Okay, so I have a Oracle source, which is my Oracle source database, just pointing to my Oracle source database. I have a YugaByte destination file, which is basically just my YugaByte, the target where we're going to send the data to. I have something called a filter file, and I'll just show you what that looks like real quick. The filter file is basically showing us that we're taking data from the Oracle database out of a schema called Archeon. We're replicating just tables, not tables and views or anything else, just tables. And then we're allowing only these 3 tables from that schema to be replicated. So if we didn't have this here, it would replicate everything from the Archeon schema. But if there's 1,000 tables in there, we only want these 3. This is how we would do this. We also have the ability to only replicate certain columns if we really wanted to. But we're just doing the whole tables here to keep it kind of simple. All right, so we're going to be using that. And then another thing we have here is that we're going to be covering is the map or mapper file. And what this does is it allows us to basically rename or do some small transformations. But this is what I'm doing here is I'm just renaming or sending the data from an Oracle Archeon schema to a public schema in the replicant database on the YugaByte side. So it's basically just remapping the data from one to the other. We can do this at the table and column level as well. But right now we're just doing it from database to database. So, or excuse me, database to database. Okay, so now that we have all our, once you have all your configuration files, the only thing you need to do next is to just basically, compose the actual command. And the structure for that is as follows. Let me grab it. Okay, so let me explain this. So we have our replicant binary. We have the mode that we're going to write in. So this one's going to be a snapshot, meaning that we're just going to take a copy of the data, point in time. It's going to copy all the data over as it sees it right then and there, and then it's going to stop replication. We have where the data is coming from, so the Oracle source first. Then we have the Oracle destination. All right, so we're going to YugaByte. Then we're calling our filter file to tell it what we want, what kind of data we want to filter out of the Oracle database. And then we have our mapper file or our map file where basically we're telling it, hey, where we want to send the data to. On the next line here, we have the ID. Now this is kind of uniquely identifying the job that's going to be running on the server. And this is also where log files and things of that nature will go to. It'll be identified by this, and I'll show you that here a little bit later. And then we have our write modes. Right now I'm using replace and overwrite, and just know that there's other write modes. There's replace and truncate, overwrite, resume, things of that nature. Just know that replace is going to replace everything on the target from everything that's on the source. And then we're just going to overwrite everything there. So if there's anything there on the target, we're going to overwrite everything. If we wanted to resume or do something like that, there's those modes as well, but we're not going to do that. So once we have the command all ready to go, we simply get a quick enter button here, and we'll start to see the command kick off. We'll see our CLI dashboard here. And what you'll see here is we have some buffered rows. We have current rate of transactions, and then we have down below, you can see the three tables that we told it to replicate. We can see how many rows that we're replicating, or we've replicated, I guess you could say. And then that's pretty much it. You can see peak rate, how much time it took, the amount of memory used on the replicant server. And yeah, that's really it. There should be ETAs. It kind of went kind of fast. We did 300,000 rows in 13 seconds. It's a little bit slower because this is all on my personal laptop, but it's, that's just give you a kind of heads up on what happens there. And then exited with 0, meaning, hey, look, replicate, the snapshot finished, and then it stopped, and that's it. If we wanted to run full mode, meaning that we wanted it to do the snapshot and then also start CDC so we can start catching the changes and replicating those as well, we can simply type full here and place a snapshot. And again, we're going to do replace and overwrite. So it's going to replace all the data on the target side. So I'm going to just run this as full. All right, and it's going to do the same thing first. We're going to do a snapshot. So first you'll see the snapshot, you'll see the rows, they get copied over. As you can see, those getting copied over now. All right. Okay, so now they've copied over, but now you can notice the dashboard is changed a little bit. Now we can actually see how many rows are inserted, deleted, updated, replaced, and buffered for each one of the tables that we're replicating. All right, and I'm just going to do a quick little show of what's of actual real changes so we know that it's actually replicating. So on my source database, I'm going to my source database, we're going to actually do some updates, deletes, and inserts. So I'm going to update a row, source database, and commit it, and then we'll see that we had a buffer transaction, and now we have one updated row. And then, I could do a delete, commit that as well, and then we'll see a buffered row, and then we'll get a delete, and then I'm just going to reinsert that row that we just deleted. All right, and then we should get, there we go, 100,001, because we updated it, we deleted it, and then I reinserted it into the cust_info table, so you can see what we're doing here. To stop this, you can simply Control-C to kill it out. If you wanted to resume it, you could change this from replace and overwrite to replace and resume, and it'll actually pick up where it left off at. But what I want to show you instead of that is I want to take you back a directory, back into the replicant home directory, and I want to show you that if you have any issues with this replication, just a quick little tidbit that underneath the data directory, underneath the replicant-cli directory, this is where all of our logs for our replication are going, and they're named by the ID that we gave it when we're doing the replication. So if I go in here, you can actually be able to see. And the most important one here in reality, or kind of for everything, is going to be the trace log. And I'm just going to cat this so you can kind of see really quickly. And I'm just going to scroll up. You can actually see some of the things that was happening during the replication. And if you have errors, where you can see the errors when I closed it out and I was doing some things on the like there's some heartbeats here, so I didn't set up the heartbeat table correctly apparently on the source database, but you can see there's no privilege on the table space user, but you'll see all those errors in this file. So usually what I'm doing is I'm usually tailing this file and running my replication while I'm running my replication. But that is really it. That's all that really needs to be done to do snapshot and CDC replication. Once you have your configuration files, it's as simple as just starting replication, with your actual command that you want to replicate with the source and target once they're set up. So once the files are there, I mean, starting and stopping is pretty easy, and then usually goes really, really quick. So that should be all for today. Thanks a lot. I'll see you next time.